In this lesson, you will learn to express a ratio in simplest form. Now, a ratio, by definition, is simply a comparison of two numbers. And it can be expressed in three different ways. So for example, if you had 7 red marbles and 12 blue marbles, and you were told to write the ratio of red to blue marbles, the ratio is simply a comparison of how many red marbles do we have with how many blue marbles do we have. So the first way that we can write this would be as 7 to 12. Second way is using a colon, so we have 7 colon 12. And the third way is using a fraction, 7 divided by 12, or 7 over 12. Each three of these ways are okay ways to write a ratio. And when you write ratios, the order makes a difference. So the question is asking to write the ratio of red to blue marbles. So the red marbles come first, and then the blue marbles come second. If I were saying the ratio of blue to red, it would then instead be 12 to 7, or 12 colon 7, or 12 over 7. Another thing with ratios is that if you have two measurements, and the measurements are in different units, we then need to make sure that we have the same units when we write the ratio. So here we see that a poster is 1 foot long and 30 inches wide. And the question is to write the ratio of width to the length. So like we said, the units must be the same in order to compare. So I could convert both units to feet or both units to inches. Either is okay. In this case, converting both to inches would probably be the easiest way to do it. And so converting 1 foot to inches, we know that there are 12 inches in 1 foot. So the length is 12 inches, the width is 30 inches. So comparing the width to the length, we put the width number first and then the length number second. So we have 30 to 12. You could write it with a colon or write it as a fraction. Either way, we need to reduce. So this could reduce to be 5 colon 2, or think of that as 5 over 2. Now if you cannot reduce or simplify with the colon, it might be helpful to write it as a fraction, because fractions, most people know how to reduce. We can divide top and the bottom by 6, and we have 5 over 2. So either way you want to do this, you can convert to a fraction first or later, and like we said, we could write it either way. 5 colon 2, we could write it out as 5 to 2, or 5 over 2. Any of those three would be okay. Now if there are 3 quantities, such as 3 red shirts, 4 blue shirts, and 6 green shirts, and I were asked to write the ratio of red to blue to green, I would then put the number of red shirts first, so 3, and then the number of blue shirts second, which is 4, and the number of the green shirts third, which is 6. So we can write this all in one statement as 3 colon 4 colon 6. And we could be asked to compare maybe just the ratio of red to the blue. Well, red, we have 3 shirts. Blue, there are 4 shirts. We can write this as 3 to 4, or 3 colon 4. And then red to green, we put the red number first, so we have 3, and then the green number second, which is 6. So we have 3 to 6, which can reduce to give me 1 to 2. And then the ratio of blue to green, blue is 4, green is 6, so the ratio would be 4 to 6, and you can reduce that dividing both sides by 2, and you have 2 to 3. We can also solve by using ratios. So for example, here we have the measures of 3 angles of a triangle are in the ratio of 2 to 2 to 5. And the question is to find the measure of each angle. So we know with a triangle, there are 3 angles, and the sum of all the angle measures would equal 180. Now a technique we can use to solve by using ratios is that we can look at the 3 angles that are represented with the 2, 2, and the 5. We can let angle 1 be 2, and then put an x after the 2. Angle 2 would be a 2 as well, and then put an x after the 2 also. Angle 3, use the 5 and put an x after the 5. So we have angle 1 is 2x, angle 2 is also 2x, and angle 3 is 5x. And I know if I add these three angles together, 2x plus 2x plus 5x is going to equal 180 degrees. So I have an equation that I can solve from this point on. 2x's plus 2 more x's plus 5x's would give me 9x's. And then to solve for x, I can divide both sides by 9, which would give me x equaling 180 over 9, which would equal 20. So we're not quite finished yet, because angle 1 was 2 times x. So 2 times x would give me 2 times 20, which is 40 degrees. Angle 2 is also 2 times 20. And then angle 3 is 5 times 20, which is going to be 100 degrees. So my solution is we have 40, 40, and 100 degrees. The next part of this lesson I mentioned kind of in passing because I assumed that most people know how to simplify. But for those of you who do not or who forgot how to simplify, I'm going to walk you through just quickly on the process for simplifying. So with the fraction, if we just have a number, 3 over 12, remember to simplify I can divide the top and the bottom, which we call the numerator and denominator, by some number. So here I can divide both by a 3. If I divide the top by a 3, I'm left with a 1, and then 12 divided by 3 would give me a 4. So when I simplify, I now have 1 over 4. Next example, we have 8 over 12. I can divide the top and the bottom by a 4, which gives me a 2, and then a 3. So my solution would be 2 over 3. Now we throw in some variables. So with the variables, we look at those separate from the number part. So looking at the numbers, the 4 and the 12, I can divide top and bottom by 4. When I do that, I have 1 over 3. And then n squared can divide by n. So to do that, I can subtract the exponents. So the exponent down with the n would be a 1. So we have 2 minus 1 would give me n to the first power. And we have more n's on the top than on the bottom, so the n to the first power would go on the top. The 1 in the front and the 1 for the exponent do not need to be written, and we could just write that as n over 3. Next example, we have 12n over 4n squared. Same concept, except now the numerator and denominator are switched, and the 12 and the 4 can reduce by dividing both by 4. So 12 divided by 4 gives me a 3. 4 divided by 4 gives me a 1. And then n over n squared, I can subtract the exponents, the 2 and the 1, to get n to the first power. So n to the first power would in this case go in the bottom because your exponent is bigger down here. So we have more n's down here, so when I cancel, I'm still left with 1 in the bottom. The 1 on the top is now gone. So my solution is 3 over n to the first power, or just 3 over n. Here's another type of question that might be asked. You're given x equals 12, y equals 10, and z is 24. And you're told to write this ratio in simplest form. All I do is I plug in the numbers that are given to me. So in place of x, I'm going to put in the 12, because x is equal to 12. So 12 goes there, and a 12 goes right here. And in place of the y, I'm going to put in the 10, because y is equal to 10. So what I have is going to be 12 on the top, and then 12 plus 10 on the bottom, which gives me 22. So I have 12 over 22, which can then simplify. And by the way, we should always simplify every time. And we can divide the top by a 2 and the bottom by a 2. I'm left with a 6 over 11. So my simplified solution would be 6 over 11. Here's another example where we have a picture and you're told to find this ratio in simplest form. The ratio is AB to BC. AB is the length from A to B, which is 3 inches. So AB is 3. And then BC is the length from B to C, which is 6 inches. So my ratio would be 3 to 6, which can simplify to give me 1 over 2.